It's been way too long since you last got a video from me, so by way of an apology, here is a garden tour to update you on projects from some of the channel's most watched videos. Let's start with the vertical pallet garden that was the first video on the channel. It was over here, but it didn't get enough winter sun, so I had an idea to repurpose it into this multi-purpose vertical garden, potting bench and storage area. The whole idea of this project was to separate or hide this back corner of the garden. It's got a bench where I can pot plants, an area to store tools like ladders and a wheelbarrow. It's also got some wood storage and a spot for my worm farms and a few friendly neighborhood spiders, which is easy to access and keeps them out of the sun. Back to the vertical pallet garden, a few of you commented that you need to be careful if growing edible plants in pallets as they can be treated with chemicals. One cheap and easy solution to that, and also enable you to swap out plants more easily, is to upcycle yogurt tubs or milk cartons, which is what I've done now for this whole vertical garden. Well, almost. This part here is a modular unit which was on special at a local hardware store, so I thought I'd test out. It'd be a great option if you had a small area and you just wanted to fix something on the wall. It can also be plumbed in directly to taps, so the watering is taken care of. If you've watched my lemon tree video, here it is a couple of years later. We had a bumper crop over the last year or so, but as you can see, there's no ripe fruit at the moment. It's still looking really healthy though, and it won't be long before we're picking ripe lemons again, which is really good because right now they're about $1.50 each in the supermarket. I've got a little bit of work to do on the gall wasp here, but you can also see that some of the spots that I treated in that video are still growing strong. There are also lots of flowers coming along, so overall really happy with how this is going. There's fruit that's ripening now, and there's clearly going to be fruit coming in the future. It's late summer for us here in Melbourne, and it's been really quite hot and dry, but overall I'm really impressed with how the garden's holding up. If you've watched any of my compost videos, here's how the compost is doing. This one is ready to be turned out, but that's a job for a couple of weeks' time. This one is the active one that I'm still adding to. It's fairly full, but it's breaking down quite quickly, and I can still add a few more loads into it, so no pressure here to get it moving, which is kind of nice. This is a mini mulch bay I built at the same time as the garden bench. It's not big enough to get hot composting going, but it's better than nothing. So that's how the back garden is looking at the moment. Let's head out the front of the house to see how everything's going on out there. If you've watched the video about the arched pond bridge, here it is 5 years on. There were some suggestions that it would rot really quickly, but despite sitting just above the water in a quite a high humidity area, there's no signs of rot. I did use treated timber, so that's not surprising to me at all. We walk over it regularly, multiple times a day usually. Yes, I'm still wearing my thongs by the way, and yes, still got all my toes. The only real wear and tear on this is a bit of the stain is starting to flake away, but otherwise it's holding up really well. So is the pond. Still don't have any frogs though, but I can't really complain. There's a really good ecosystem going on here. There's enough predatory insects to keep the mosquito population down, but it is probably time to clean out some of those water plants. So finally, let's take a look at the raised self-watering veggie patches. A lot of you have seen this video, so you probably want to know how it's doing. It does need a bit of a paint job in some spots, particularly where the sun really beats down on it, but overall they're holding up and performing really well. Across the year, I top up all the beds with compost, manure, trace elements, and all the things you want to be adding to a raised garden bed to keep the nutrients and minerals up and the plants doing really well. They also get a fair bit of liquid fertilizer from the worm farms and bokashi. And as you can see, things are growing really well. The climbing beans are going on strong. My tomatoes are doing really well this year. I've got quite a few different varieties. Very tasty. Here I've got some freshly planted lettuce and salad greens. This middle bed, I don't know the origin where this came from. Because of that, I don't plant any edible food in here. I just put in flowers and I just let it sort of do its own thing. Nasturtiums are growing pretty well. My wild rocket is living up to its name. It's looking pretty wild. On the east and west ends that get a bit more sun is where I plant things like tomatoes and cucumbers. As you can see, they're growing quite well, looking very healthy. It does need a bit of a paint job here as well. But in terms of how the beds are performing, unless it's a major heat wave, I generally get 1 to 2 weeks between watering these. As you can see, the cucumbers are going pretty well. The video I made about these raised beds is by far the most watched on the channel, so thanks if you've watched it too. But you probably want to know what I would do differently now that they've had over 5 years of use. There are really only 3 things I would change. One is fairly minor, one is a bit annoying, the other is a bit of a major design flaw that I really need to fix. The minor point is this. See the little gap here? For most of the beds, it's about 3 to 5 centimeters. It's not a big issue, but if I was to do this again, I would lift the beds up a little bit higher and put that capping right flush on the top, and would have fewer hiding spaces or access points for slugs and snails. The annoying thing is the layout. 2 beds together work really well. I can access them from 3 sides while keeping the plants from falling into the footpath as people walk by. The 3 together in the middle work, but only really because I don't grow anything productive in the middle garden. If I was trying to tie up tomatoes, it'd be a real pain. A bit like here where we border the neighbours on the west side of the garden. This fence not only restricts access for me, but it also restricts light, especially when the plants are small or when I'm trying to grow from seed. To that end, I would say if space is not an issue for you, try and give yourself as much access around the gardens as possible. Lastly, and this is the big one that some of you have already picked up on. Yes, these brackets are pretty ugly and spoil the neatness of the rest of the work, but that's not the main issue. At the time, I hadn't really thought of a good way to close up these boxes neatly, but still be able to open them back up if I need, which is why I went the brackets. In the end, that didn't work anyway because I needed to add this extra bracing to stop the boards bowing. And that's caused the major problem, which is I have no access to the overflow pipes. Not a problem in normal operation, but when one of them blocks up, like this one has, there's no way to access it and unblock it without digging up the soil and trying to do it that way. This hasn't been much of a problem this year because we haven't had as much rain, but last year when we had heaps and heaps of rain, I actually had to drain this bed out. Clearly, I'm yet to solve this problem and I do need to fix it, so it is something that I am going to be addressing, but for the moment, it's a project for another day. Thanks again for watching and for those who have subscribed despite how few videos I've been making lately.